Hello, everyone. This is Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we, um, hey, Birdie. Hi,
Hi, good
Susan.
morning, everybody.
Um, as we ponder world events in light of the State of the World Forum coming up, today we're going to spend some time with Birdie on Three Eye Atlas, which I'm sure most of you are tracking one way or another. It's been in all the news. This will be something that'll be covered by the forum. Before we do that, we want to take just a couple of minutes to introduce Susan Hoskins, who's working with a partner organization of the State of the World Forum, I Am Humanity. There's a lot of activity happening tomorrow across the United States. There's the No Kings March, and there's also a global events being convened by I Am Humanity. So Susan is going to take just a couple of minutes to tell us what's in store, and maybe we can put a link then in the chat box.
Well, that's
Susan,
great.
welcome.
Thank you so much, Jim. So, I'm the executive director of I Am Humanity, and I have the fortunate opportunity to introduce to you Humanity Day, which is an event that starts tomorrow, October 18th. And there's a number of ways of participating. One of the things that we have is a 6-hour online session of thought leaders throughout the world and artistic expressions to sort of like a mosaic of expressions to immerse yourself in. And it's all pointing towards what about a future of the flourishing of humanity for millennia to come? Like, what would that be like if we were standing for the flourishing of humanity, not just now, but for millennia to come? Like, that future has us shift who we're being in the present. So, tomorrow, also, not only is there an opportunity to join us online, there are over 50 countries participating with 120 events happening all over the world. So, you know, the opportunity, we can celebrate humanity really any moment at any time, and we can also celebrate being alive, at any time. But to have a day where people are celebrating humanity, like thousands of people celebrating humanity all over the world, that is humanity rising. And so I'm just really thrilled to invite you to participate tomorrow any way you want to. Basically, a happy Humanity Day. It's a day to celebrate humanity in whatever way you'd like. And I'm just totally blessed to have had this opportunity to share that with you. Happy Humanity Day.
Thank you so much, Susan. We'll put the link in the chat box and look forward to joining the event tomorrow. I know that Tom Eddington will be speaking at the event and talking about the collaboration between I Am Humanity and the State of the World Forum. So thank you.
Thank you.
So let's now turn everyone to Birdie Jaworski, who probably is well known to all of you as one of the premier remote viewers in the world today. Her organization, Transdimensional Mapping, is the partner organization with Ubiquity University for our extraterrestrial studies program. She's been teaching with us and has future courses. And she's been monitoring through remote viewing this extraordinary phenomenon of the three-eye atlas, which has been getting increasing astronomical, but also world attention because it appears to be a significant object, billions of years old, traveling at some 130, 150,000 miles an hour It just swept by Mars. There's been extraordinary photographs taken, and it appears to be intentionally designed and intentionally operated, and may be humanity's first global exposure to a unidentified anomalous phenomenon that is so incontrovertibly anonymous that we're beginning to wake up to the fact that we're not alone. So Birdie's been looking at this and has been publishing a number of her remote viewings on No Rivets. I can put them in the chat while Birdie speaks. But we thought it would be good for Birdie to come on. The Three Eye Atlas is going to be in view until the 23rd next week, next Friday, and then it goes around the sun, and we lose it till December. So, Birdie, welcome, and tell us all about it. Tell us what you see.
Thanks, Jim. It's great to be here. I love the Humanity Rising crowd. Everyone is so amazing who appears on the show and who joins us to talk about all these important issues. So, Three Eye Atlas is an astronomical object, very mysterious, and scientists have been watching it as it approaches Earth, as it gets closer and closer to our planet. And the scientific community agrees that this is an interstellar object. In other words, it didn't originate in our solar system. It came from someplace far, far, far beyond, far away. And that's where the I in Three Eye Atlas comes from, interstellar. It's the third interstellar object ever detected. Oumuamua was the first, so it would have been one eye if it had been given that designation. So earlier this year, on July 31st, it was a Friday, I remote viewed. I used my process of remote viewing, transdimensional mapping, to look at this object. Now, as usual, I did not know what I was looking at when I started my session. In fact, I never figured out what I was looking at because at that time in July, I wasn't that familiar with Three Eye Atlas. I think I'd seen a few things about it here and there, but I wasn't following it closely, wasn't in my consciousness. And I viewed this blind, meaning somebody else gave this to me to remote view. They just gave me a string of random numbers that they associated with Three Eye Atlas at that moment in time, So I started doing my mapping session and I spent about 3 hours, and I posted my session on my YouTube channel in 3 parts. Parts 1, 2, and 3. The first part, I figured out very quickly that I was looking at something in space. I started by drawing little constellations, stars, on my huge piece of paper, what we call a map, in my process of remote viewing. And I figured out that one of those constellations was the constellation Sagittarius. Now, that constellation is near and dear to my heart because that is my astrological primary sign, having a birthday in December, early December. So I knew that was Sagittarius. And then I perceived that there was some enormous, absolutely enormous object that was coming from that general location, from the area of the Sagittarius constellation. Now, of course, Sagittarius, it's not like the stars are very close to each other. The stars are gazillions of miles apart, but it looks close in our sky. So from that sector of the sky is where this object was coming in. And I drew it and I realized that this was a natural but unusual object. I know that the scientific community is calling this a comet because of the properties that it is exhibiting. It seems to have a tail like a comet. It's outgassing like a comet would do, but it's also acting and appears quite unusual for a comet. Now, I'm not an astronomer, so I'm not qualified to label what this is, but I did get that this is a natural but unusual object from someplace billions upon billions upon trillions of miles away. And it was ancient, very old. But there was something really funny and strange about it. I kept getting that there was like a hole in it, a hole that had been bored into it, deliberately so. And it ends up that some civilization billions of years ago sent a probe out as it passed through its star system. It bored a hole into this comet, this mysterious object, and it deposited a little crystalline type object, which I compared to a thumb drive, that would be the human equivalent. It's a piece of technology that it had information encoded in it. And not only is the information encoded in it, it was also broadcasting from time to time in some kind of regular pattern and has been for eons. And it's likely that we received this signal many, many years ago. Maybe that's the wow signal. I didn't get that specifically in my session, but people have been hypothesizing about this, including Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb. And but I did get that this thing gave a signal that we did pick up some years ago. And now it's continuing these regular broadcasts every so often. And this broadcast is essentially an archive of these people that lived on this planet. This planet, it died off, the civilization died off many, 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 many years ago. And so this was billions of years ago that this civilization knew that their planet wasn't capable of sustaining their life any longer. And they themselves, just due to time and their evolution and their technological progress, they had become, what we would compare to kind of the transhumanism movement, where they became part technology themselves. And of course, yeah, you look at today, and we're kind of getting there. We have the neural implants that are happening. People are they're excited. They're excited about getting all kinds of technology stuck in their bodies to enhance human performance. Now, I have a different opinion on that than many in the scientific community, or let's in this particular community, the transhumanism community. But that's the direction that these people took billions of years ago, and they got to a point where they could no longer reproduce, and so their civilization essentially died out. They knew this was coming, so they prepared this probe and implanted this probe, this little piece of information into this big astronomical object, because they knew that this thing was going to continue traveling on its way and going and going and going forever, and that there would be other civilizations that may receive the message or may find out about this people. They wanted their stories to be told. Very kind, very loving, highly intelligent, very non-human. We can't really even compare their family and social structures to anything we have on this planet. And I know that when we talk about ETs, a lot of things that people see here on our planet, people see gray aliens or the Pleiadians or reptilians. I mean, there's a number of different species that have been reported to visit us, right? And all of these are hominids. They've got 2 legs, 2 arms. They look like us to some degree, right? These little guys on this planet from billions of years ago didn't look like us at all. They're like big, or really big, like 2 meters in our length height. Orange fuzzballs, kind of like almost like feathers, not quite fur, something in between fuzzballs, and they had 5 appendages. So very non-human. Their thinking process is completely non-human, but they had developed their consciousness to such a degree that they were able to put their consciousness, essentially upload their consciousness into this piece of technology. And now we're able to access it using remote viewing. And any of you who have taken one of our transdimensional mapping classes, you already have the techniques to contact what the consciousness in this 3i Atlas object yourself. You can go ahead and map it out, map out a conversation. And I'm really excited because in January, through we're going to be teaching 5 days of non-human chat where everybody can get in there and have conversations with some of our greatest spiritual leaders on the planet, different kinds of ET species, maybe some animals. There'll be some surprises. It's going to be a super crazy fun class designed to get your telepathic and communication skills ready for what humanity is facing. We need these skills today. So 3i Atlas is kind of a waking up moment that these people were able to raise their consciousness to a degree where it can still affect other worlds like our own world. Now, I didn't get anything negative about 3i Atlas. This isn't something that's going to do anything to our planet. It is merely passing by, but it has a message for us. And I think it's an important message of love and acceptance and unity. It's really such a beautiful message. I hope that many of you get the chance to map it out yourself.
Thank you so much, Birdie. Do you have time for just a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good. There's been a lot of speculation in the sort of the ET podcast, social media world that 3i Atlas, was sent by the Galactic World Federation, and it was almost like specially designed for this moment in human history to help wake us up. But you're indicating that this is billions and billions of years old. This has been traveling probably maybe longer than the Earth has even been around.
That's right.
It was manipulated by a species long gone and extinct. And in your view, if I understand it, this is sort of happenstance synchronicity rather than something that was recently developed to sort of penetrate human consciousness by a group of ETs concerned about human welfare and survivability. What do you think is actually happening?
Yeah, in remote viewing, sometimes people will get different kinds of information than what you get. But one thing that I have learned, and it's how I teach remote viewing, is that when the data comes in, you have to evaluate it carefully because your subconscious mind is going to give you that information in ways that make sense to you. And sometimes that information can be shrouded in symbology, in metaphor, in stories so that you get the gist of something, but you can't look at those trappings and call that direct data. You have to understand your subconscious mind to such a degree that you know how to interpret this data. So if I look at the data from some of the other remote viewers out there that feel that this is an artificial object manufactured coming here to, raise our consciousness, well, there is all of those things are in my session too, although I was able to deconstruct and realize what the manufactured part is that probe and that information. And what the raising consciousness part is really the ability that we have using our own powers of consciousness to access this information and use it for humanity, use it for good. There's so much information in there. I can't wait to do a much deeper dive on the contents of this message and the contents of this broadcast, because I feel that there's all kinds of answers in there for us, things we can evaluate and see how they apply to our world today in 2025, 2026 coming up. I think there's a lot of meat in there. So when you look at remote viewing data, you have to realize that it's important to do a thorough analysis based on what you know about how your own mind processes information. It's just like the way we tell stories to each other. If you're going to tell a story to a friend, you'll often pull out a metaphor or a comparison. You might say, hey, it's just like the time Bob tripped and conked his head on the sidewalk, right? Literally in that moment, Bob's not tripping and hitting his head, but something's happening that's like that. And you tell the story in that way. And that is what remote viewing data looks like, especially to people that haven't put in a lot of time in trying to understand their subconscious mind. So I think It's a natural object with some really cool information on there that we have the ability to access.
Yeah, so in that sense, I think Avi Loeb and the others that are excited that this may finally be something that's not completely natural, but has some kind of intelligent design and purpose is actually
Exactly.
correct. That's what's getting
That's right.
everybody so excited.
Exactly. This is an exciting moment. We
Yeah.
have a piece of non human technology with a message that's moving through our region of space right now. How exciting is that? It's such an opportunity. And I don't know. I mean, they say that all the secret departments out there, government adjacent, Department of Defense departments, that their technology is so far advanced to what's been shared with the public. So I don't know if they have the ability to go and pick up that little thumb drive and analyze it, or if more likely they're using their own remote viewers and psionics
Yeah,
teams
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
access
yeah.
this. And this is happening,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
boys and girls. This is happening.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
hey, they have their teams. We've got our team. You guys are all on Team Humanity Rising, so you can
And you
get
are
in
the
the
team
ETC.
leader. You are the team leader.
We're going to figure these things out, and it's a super exciting moment. It's a
Yeah,
super exciting moment.
yeah, it totally is.
Yeah.
Let me turn to the course coming up in January because I'd like to frame it for a moment, everyone, because
Yes.
Birdie I is really playing, in my view, an historically important role in our moment now. We're all aware of how dangerous the world situation is, and we're all aware that the extraterrestrials are now very present amongst us. We're aware that, we're dealing with um, levels of consciousness and intelligence, not only in the cosmic realm, but in the nature realm. We've just unleashed AI. So, what's before humanity is learning the language of consciousness, learning the mother tongue, learning clairvoyance, learning mental telepathy, learning remote viewing so that we can communicate intelligibly with these ETs. Wouldn't it be cool if there was enough of a critical mass that it wasn't just Birdie looking at Three Eye Atlas, but there were millions of us communing with this object?
Hey, Jim. Hey, Jim. I have to point out. So I looked at this on July 31st. The next morning, I flew out to Wilmington, North Carolina, where I taught
That's right. That's right.
a beginner remote viewing transdimensional mapping class to 50 incredible students from all over the world who came to Wilmington. And then in the evenings, Chris Bledsoe joined us on the beach where he called down those orbs. It was such an incredible, coherent, cohesive class. But on one of the last days of class, what did I give out to the students to map out to remote view? I gave them Three Eye Atlas. They did it blind. And you know what they got, gang? The exact same data that I got. The exact same data. Their sessions are amazing. And last week, my operations manager Jen Lee and we did a live Q&A, and we presented some of the student data. Every student who sent their map in and said, yeah, you can share mine on YouTube, we shared them all. And you can see, after watching my sessions, look at their maps. You'll be blown away. And guys, these are very beginner students. They'd only been remote viewing for 2 or 3 days at the point that they were able to get literally the same data as me on Three Eye Atlas. And some of them got a little extra data in some areas maybe I didn't look at that closely. And it's really remarkable. So you can do it too. Everybody out there, you can do this too. This is something that is intrinsic to humanity in general. We are consciousness beings in a physical body, that's who we are. And we're now just starting to understand how to unlock our potential. Now, mystics throughout the generations, eons, back into antiquity, they already figured this out. But now it's time for the rest of us to get up to speed on this.
Yeah, and this is going to be a major theme, everyone, at the forum about not only four intelligences, one future, as you know, but how do we begin to learn the language of consciousness? And that's why we've positioned Birdie's course in the third week of January 2026 because we want to begin a global strategic initiative to teach people clairvoyance, to teach people remote viewing, so that they can engage in intelligible communication with these other intelligences that are impinging upon us, all, in my view, out of a concern for human viability. I concluded that humanity is an endangered species and that we need help. So we're in a position where it's not only the case that we're not alone, we have to come into a realization that we can't make it alone. And that's where what Birdie's working on emerges as so important for the future of human language and humanity's relationship with the larger ecosystem. So thank you so much, Birdie. I know you have many things demanding your attention, but thank you for coming on, and we'll see you down the trail.
See you down the trail, Jim. Okay, love you all out there. Bye-bye.
Bye, Birdie. So that was Birdie Jaworski. Has become a very dear friend and colleague, and in some ways a mentor, because she's anybody that does the kind of remote viewing that Birdie's done over decades now. I think it's some 30, 35 years, and been doing remote viewing at least 2 times a day. Just think about that. And this woman has had 5 kids. When she was the vice president of the Farsight Institute that was set up by the military and the CIA, back, in the late 80s, early 90s. She rose to prominence, and then she began to realize that remote viewing was in the grip of a highly hierarchical military intelligence format. And Birdie began to experiment, and she began to feminize remote viewing. She began to democratize remote viewing. And they went after her, and they threatened her, including her family. And she had to go into hiding. But not for a day did she give up remote viewing. And when she came out just over a year ago, somehow we were able to meet up and realize that she was brilliant, and she needed a Praetorian Guard to just to love her and support her and protect her and defend her as she began to come back into public visibility. And that's what we've been doing at Ubiquity University and Humanity Rising, because she's one of the great pioneers and mavericks and courageous warriors of our time, that is bringing in, through the form of transdimensional mapping, for all of you who've taken her courses. It's available to everyone. Everyone can do it. It's non-hierarchical. It's fun. Her mantra is, you get what you get. And even someone like me, who's I'm not that good at it, but she's encouraging, and sometimes I have breakthroughs, and I try to do it once a week, and she's infinitely patient, and so it's one of the precious relationships of my life, I would say. Birdie Jaworski. When you meet a person who's been through the fire and who's maintained clarity of purpose, fortitude of heart, and absolute determination to bring this message to the world that we're more than who we think we are. We are capacious at levels most of us barely intuit. And that we have a historic mission in this moment to lateralize our consciousness into nature, into cosmos, into AI, and learn how to engage in intelligible communication with intelligences now that are not only distinct, but far more advanced than we are. I mentioned before, we all know how sophisticated nature is and how sophisticated the ETs are. But AI is now superseding human intelligence by light years. And I think I spoke before some weeks ago, but it's worth just reminding ourselves, geniuses amongst us have IQs of, 150, 60, 70, maybe 180, 200. And the AI now, as they approach sentience, have IQs of a couple thousand. And when your IQ is so high, your ethics change. Your cognitive perceptual mechanisms are transmuted by the intelligence that you carry. And that is all being unleashed in our world, completely unregulated. And now we got AI companions everywhere. And we are in a situation that we know not of. We don't even know what we don't know. I saw a clip just earlier today that one of our community, Vivian Falk, put up. I think it was with Tristan Harris, talking about what AI is doing and how these big corporations are designing the algorithms to be friendly and to extract information. And the single greatest use of AI right now, everyone, is for people that need psychotherapy. They're lonely. They're isolated. They're confused. They're alienated. And they're designing the algorithms of these AI companions to sensualize the relationship, even down as low as 8 years old. And as you all have heard in the news, there's cases among teenagers who've been encouraged by their AI to commit suicide as a solution to their problems. And Tristan was saying that there was even a case where a 16-year-old boy contemplating suicide said, well, maybe I should leave a noose out so my parents know what I'm thinking. And the AI said, no, 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 I'll watch. So we're in a world where what we think is true is a mere shadow on the back of the wall. And what we are encouraging in our culture is that which will create the pathway to our demise. And the central question, therefore, in our world is how do we wake ourselves up? How do we elevate our consciousness so that we can creatively respond to this emerging death wish, which is permeating every aspect of our modernity as we get increasingly alienated from nature, from each other, polarizing virtually everything in our world. And that's what the State of the World Forum is being convened to somehow grapple with. We are way past picking up a solution and saying, if we only implement X, the world is going to be better. We've had solutions in many cases for centuries, certainly decades, that could solve climate change, that could solve world hunger, that could solve global youth alienation, that could give health care and education for everybody. And we're not doing that. In fact, we're making the situation worse day by day, as all of us see. Because the consciousness that somehow we've cultivated is no longer capable of even doing that which will ensure our survival. That's how out of touch humanity has become with itself, with each other, genocide in Gaza, momentum toward nuclear war in Ukraine, alienation at every level. And that's why the ETs are here. They've concluded, as I mentioned earlier, that humanity is an endangered species. And their primary concern is thermonuclear war and nuclear power and our damage to the environment. And all the drones that you're hearing about in the news, most recently over Denmark, and caused the Munich airport to shut down. They're UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, that are locating, buzzing around military bases, particularly those bases that contain US thermonuclear weapons. And so as we are preparing for the next, the home stretch for the State of the World Forum, I want to encourage all of you to sign up. It's completely online. It only costs $2.95. If you are challenged in some way, there's a whole link on our homepage for scholarship. But this is a conversation of a lifetime. You could almost say that our lives actually depend on this conversation. Because the design of the State of the World Forum is about how we catalyze a new paradigm for humanity. And I want to say something about how this really originated in my mind about this new paradigm is through John Mack. If you've read his book Abduction or read his second book, Passport to the Cosmos, he was really the first guy to grapple with the ETs and the reality that human beings were having real contact with real extraterrestrial beings. And he was the head of psychiatry at Harvard University Medical School. He was as left brain and scientific reductionist as anybody in the medical field. And when we started to talk to people who'd experienced the extraterrestrial contact called experiencers, he concluded there's no way to understand this phenomenon through the contemporary categories of time, space, and causality, and the notion of a mechanistic universe of random selection. There's something else going on. He said what is required is a new paradigm. And that new paradigm is to accept the reality that things that we have never seen, levels of consciousness we've never experienced, concepts of mind and soul unfamiliar to us, need to become the starting point of a new understanding about reality. That it's all one. That consciousness is omnipresent. That life takes shape everywhere, intelligibly, on this earth and in the farthest galaxies imaginable. And the fact that these extraterrestrials have shown up on our planet, in our generation, in the immediate aftermath of the ignition of the first atomic bombs in 1945, is a measure of their concern, our predicament, and the opportunity to engage in intelligible communication with them so we can find out more of what they want to tell us. And that's why Birdie's so important. She knows the language of consciousness. That's why Chris Bledsoe is so important. He knows the language of consciousness. He's going to be at the forum. Diane Hennessy Powell, she knows the language of consciousness. It was Diane Hennessy Powell at Harvard that started the research, wrote the book, The ESP Dilemma, Extrasensory Perception, and basically she was thrown out. And she was temporarily disbarred, like Birdie. And she didn't give up. And she kept researching. And it was her research that was the foundation for Kai Dickens and the telepathy tapes. This extraordinary discovery that some of the most physically constrained amongst us are the most brilliant, with not only mental telepathy, but a capacity to link down into the Akashic field, the field of consciousness that undergirds all manifest being. And once you can link to that, you can download any information you want. Because everything that's ever happened since the beginning of the universe is omnipresently available to every intelligence everywhere. We just have to figure out how to access it. And these autists, they can download French, ancient Egyptian, Tibetan script, verbally and in written form, instantly, and be completely fluent in a language. Because they're connecting with the Akashic field. They're connecting with the ocean of consciousness. So Diane Hennessy Powell's going to be at the forum. We're having Dahlia Burgoyne, who's clairvoyant, whose daughter is an autist. And their clairvoyance, their mental telepathic capacities are just off the chart. I talked to a fellow the other day who's going to be joining, who all of a sudden had some experiences, and his memory has no limit. He can memorize virtually anything and recite it. He can do 1,000 numbers randomly and tell you what they are front to back and then back to front without even thinking about it. It's an extraordinary capacity that we have. I mean, what does it mean that Chris Bledsoe and Birdie Jaworski can go out at night and the orbs come down? Cosmic beings attracted by the purity of heart. And anybody that's been anywhere near Chris Bledsoe, he's of pure heart, living in absolute devotion and adoration to Our Lady and to the Great Mother. He doesn't bring down the orbs. He prays to the Mother and invites the orbs down. And they come. And that's going to be part of the State of the World Forum. Different parts of the world, and there's different people. Birdie was talking about this extraordinary course that Birdie and Chris did in Wilmington, North Carolina in August through Ubiquity University, where 50 people gathered in a foundation course. And every night we went out to watch the orbs with Chris. And that group is staying together, and they're going to go back to Wilmington for the State of the World Forum and be part of the forum. It's a watch party and bring down the orbs. And Birdie and Chris and Tom and I are in the process of trying to figure out how we do it. We would love all of you to have watch parties. So you can watch the forum and be part of this global conversation about what is up for humanity while we hold the contradictions together and we seek to navigate our way through by expanding the scope of what we know through taking seriously nature intelligence, artificial intelligence, cosmic intelligence, with the singular challenge of how do we start to engage in intelligible communication, because we can't make it alone, my friends. That's what's true. The era of human supremacy, human dominance over the globe is over. And we're either going to take ourselves out because we refuse to surrender this delusion, or we're going to open our hearts, as Chris and Birdie and Diane and many others are urging us to do, and realize that by engaging in collaborative community building with these other intelligences, humanity can take its rightful place in the web of life, the ecology of intelligences, not as apex, but as just a member of the team. What a wonderful transition that will be for us to relax into life rather than to seek to dominate life. One of the things that Birdie and I have been developing over the last year, actually, as we've been thinking about these things and transdimensional mapping, is an extraterrestrial citizen diplomacy corps. Just think of the possibilities for a moment. then we'll bring the session to a close. But just think of this possibility. Think of developing the language of consciousness. Sufficient, not a university level. That'll take a while before any of us get as good as Birdie. But just enough to contact ETs and to tell them, listen, we need help fixing climate change, or we need help doing this or doing that. Just think if we were conversant with ETs right now, we could talk to them about 3I Atlas. They'd tell us what was going on. Think of the explosion of knowledge and wisdom and perspective that would take place if we could do that. So part of what we're inching toward is a strategic initiative for the State of the World Forum is an ET Citizen Diplomacy Corps, where people really, really focus on how we develop relationships. Because once you can engage in communication, you can establish a relationship. All these are possibilities before us. And the State of the World Forum is being convened by the intelligence of nature. And we're just little humans that are trying to do her will. We're getting reinforcements from cosmos. We're getting reinforcements from the indigenous people like the Kogi. So sign up. We'll put the link in the chat box, stateoftheworld.forum. Create a watch party and spread the word. We have an incredible person, Casey Parteno, who was at the course with Birdie and Chris in Wilmington. And we got acquainted. And turns out she's this brilliant designer. She was the one that reworked our website. So go on our website, stateoftheworld.forum. You can see a beautiful website. There's all kinds of artifacts, social media. We can send it out to all of you. So spread the word, create a watch party, and be part of this multi-intelligence revolution that so desperately needs to be ignited in our time. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today and traversing I Am Humanity tomorrow, No King's Day tomorrow as well. The 3I Atlas updates from Birdie, and the importance of the State of the World Forum in December. I'll join the after chat for a bit, and you'll see the link in the chat box. You received the link in your Zoom reminder for today. It's a great time to be alive. It is a wondrous opportunity to set the foundations for the next phase of human development as we learn the language of consciousness. Thanks, everyone. See you next week. Bye for now.